Hi, my name is Amanda, and I'm going to be talking about short stories today. If you saw my intro to the poetry and short story read-along / challenge / I don't know what it's called, but this year I am reading a poem or a short story every single day. And I'm doing periodic check-ins just once a month because I don't want to do a check-in every week or even every day to be like, I read this and I read this. And the poetry check-in will be in a separate video from the short story check-in. So let's talk about everything I've read so far this year. I finished The Sun on My Head by Geovani Martins. This book was translated by, let me find the translator, hold on. Translated by Julia Sanchez, it says it on the front. And he lives in Brazil. What I think is really cool about this book is that he is only 30 years old. And I don't know how old he was when he wrote this, but it says he was born in 1991. So this year he's 30. And the stuff in here is so mature. I just feel like you have to have lived a certain amount of life to talk about some of these things that he talks about. It's just, I'm so impressed by the writing, and this is raw, and this is about growing up in in a poor section of the city that he grew up in Brazil. He was born in Rio de Janeiro, but I don't think that's where he grew up, but he says the name of quite a few towns around there, and he just talks about trying to survive. And it's not a memoir, it's not his life and his stories, but I do think that they are lived experiences that either he or the people around him have had in their lives. Like there are definite biographical things that it feels like in this writing. And I loved them. There are, let me see how many stories. Some of the stories are relatively short, only a few pages, and some of them are quite long and took me a little while to read. So there's only 13 stories in here, and it's not very long, you can tell. And I just followed my little thing where I I ended up reading 4 short stories a week and 3 poems. So I finished this book. It didn't take me long since there are only 13 stories. And the next book is this one, which it's really bright and you can't see. And it is, stories for the nighttime and some for the day. I love that it's got these edges, these cool edges on the side of it. I also love that these are like micro fictions. Isn't that what it's called? Flash fiction, maybe that's what it's called. Like the last story that I just read was 1, 2, 3, 4 pages long. That was it. And it was really good. And then there's the swimming pool, which I read was really good. I've only read 3 of these short stories so far. Yes, 3 so far. And they're spooky, but they're also disturbing. Like there's a part in each one of them where you're like, oh. And you don't know whether something really real is happening or if the person in the story thinks something really real is happening. But I love this so far. Like I said, I'm not very far in, and so my next check-in, I will definitely be further into this book. This has a lot more stories in it because they're so short. So I'm pretty sure this one has 40 stories in it. And like I said, this is probably not much bigger than this book, but it has a lot more stories and they're a lot shorter. So anyway, and they're just totally different. This is about life in the cities in Brazil, and these are just creepy stories about weird circumstances so far. Anyway, we'll see if that changes. And they're not related to each other. The stories don't go along with each other. These really don't either, except they're all about boys, older teens and young 20-something-year-old boys in the city. But this one seems to not be related at all. Anyway, these are my 2 so far that I have read. I cannot wait to continue with this one, and I will check back in next month and talk about what I've read leading up to there. Thank you for joining me today. I would love to know if you've read any short story compilations that you would recommend for me. I am branching out into genres, so I'm willing to read anything. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.